Painting with Menoth John is presented in Super Legitivision. Super Legitivision, the future of podcasting. It's .com. Hear ye, all you of the war machines. With us tonight, we have a very special episode of the Painting with Menoth John Technology Extravaganza. With us, we have Bubba, King of the North, your liege, your leader, who has commissioned, with his great benevolence, a new edition of the War Machines and Hordes. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Bubba Dalton.
Hi, everybody. How's it going, brushheads?
Ladies and gentlemen, from a place not far away from the King of the North, we bring you a man who's known throughout the land for his taste and distinction, with beer at least. We have Rich Broutman.
How's it going, brushheads? Good to be here.
And, of course, the mighty right hand of the president himself, the man who provides the wind for his wings, Mr. John Spencer.
Heyo.
And of course, we have myself. I am Menoth John. I am your comely host for tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, this is an emergency broadcast. This is not a test of the emergency war machine system. Had this been an actual test, Mark III wouldn't be coming out in June. We'd be hearing about PDFs getting released, but that's not what we're here about. Ladies and gentlemen, we are here to talk about the marks of 3. And
this is going to be interesting. There's a lot of salt flowing right now.
Indeed.
A lot of tears.
Absolutely.
But we'll guide you through it.
We are here for the 0 viewers currentently watching this podcast. Oh, wait, we have one. We have at least one, ladies and gentlemen.
I see 5.
Nice. Yeah. Oh, good. Well, my XSplit is not caught up yet, so that's wonderful. Folks, earlier today, the good folks over at Moosemachine had brought us a special. You can find it on the Painting with Menoth John YouTube channel. But I don't think that it would be a day of such momentous news if your source for all things technical related to the game of War Machine Hordes. God, I can't even say that without stuttering. Oh, and then we lost the Bubba. The president will return, I'm sure. And but we still have everybody else. We wanted to get on here and talk a little bit about all the different things that we now know about what Mark III is going to be. They're not calling it Mark III, John. What are they calling it?
Oh, God, I don't even know. Sorry, I was at work all day. I didn't see all that stuff.
Oh, that's fine. Rich, and what have they been calling it?
I've heard Mark III. I've heard the new version of Prime and Primal. That's
okay.
What I think is the official, but unofficially everyone's calling it Mark III.
Yeah,
okay.
It's Mark III.
All right, well, we're going to call it Mark III. As president of War Machine and Hordes for Life, I will call it Mark III, and Mark III is what it will be called. It looks like we're getting Bubba back. Oh, Bubba has returned. Oh.
To be fair, it is snowing.
Wow, and it sounded like snow flew up in your microphone there for a second, but I think everything's going to be okay. So there was a couple of things that happened. First there was the announcement and the video. And then PrimeCast released very shortly afterwards with a lot of details. I know, John, you've just gotten back, so you haven't seen this. Rich,
I saw the video. I didn't hear it. I
okay.
couldn't hear it at work, but I could see it. And without any sound, it was kind of lame.
Yeah,
I'll be honest. See that. Without sound, I'm just like, I'm not excited at all.
Yeah. So the basically, the video kind of just it had a lot of buzzwords in it. It had a lot of my favorite one was play how you want to play, and guys, we'll start with Rich, kind of get your perspective on that. What do you suppose that really means?
I think at first a lot of people they kind of went off the deep end immediately,
Mm-hmm.
and they thought, oh God, what do people do? They panic to what they've heard recently. and people immediately said, oh my God, it's Age of Sigmar, I'm going to lose my mind. No, it's not Age of Sigmar. What this is, and we'll get into it in a minute actually, it's a rebalancing, and it's, people say play how you want to play. So let's see, right now, not playing how you want to play, what's the only thing people want to do all the time now that they can't do? That's play with a lot of jacks and beasts.
Yeah.
So that's what this will enable.
That's a fair statement.
And I think it's a good thing. I think it's the reason a lot of people got into this game, was to play with big stompy monsters and robots. I love power attacks as much as I possibly can. I'll even do them when I'm not supposed to do them, and it may cost me the game. But it's I think it's that aspect of it. I think that's where they're coming from with that.
Okay.
And with the point value stuff, we'll also discuss. I think that's the direction they're going, is to offer you a little more versatility, so you don't have things like where you play trolls, you have a point left over, and you don't really know what to put in it because trolls have one point option. It's kind of frustrating.
Yeah. You bring up a good point, Rich, and that is something that was talked about during the PrimeCast, and that is that the designers of the game really felt as though when they made the point switch to its current level, that they may have taken it a bit too far. For those of you who did not play back in Mark 1, games were like 350, 500, and 750 were the point levels in Mark 1. And then if you got stupid, you'd go up to 1,000 points, which was kind of what the 100-point level is now. In the case of the designers, what they're saying is exactly as you described, Rich, is that things got a little bit out of hand, and they started losing the ability to draw differences between units that really had actual differences. And I think that may be some of the changes we've seen in models that could have been maybe made more relevant by simply bumping up a point here, a point there. But because they sat in that gray area, it did happen, and now they're going to get a chance to re-level that stuff. Bubba, your thoughts?
I'm really optimistic, and I feel I want to see, in terms of the play how you want to play, I want to see just the level of options be so broad that seeing the same list like you see now all the time is like super rare. So while things may still be competitive, fun, whatever, I'll just speak from the competitive side of it. If it's going to be competitive, cool. But like, I don't have to take in Kador, Iron Fang Pikemen in every list.
Yep.
Because they're the best. It's like, well, I can take like 5 different things and they're still good, aka Man of Wars, and it can still be competitive. And I hope that rebalancing brings that to the field. Just a lot of options.
Yep.
Not just the same thing over and over and over.
John, any initial thoughts on what because I know you've been looking since you've gotten home. You've been taking a look at some of the spoilers and things that are coming out. Any initial impressions about the changes as before we launch into going into some of the exact specifics?
No, I mean, it's pretty much what I figured they were going to do when I first heard about it a couple months ago. No, like you and I were pretty much ready for this.
Yeah.
No real crunchy details till the PrimeCast came out, but we were ready. I mean, there's some interesting stuff there, but it is more or less what I was expecting, with the exception of the pre-measuring that we'll talk about here in a bit.
Actually, I expect now our viewership to go up at least to double now that we have a cat actually on camera for this discussion.
And diversify significantly.
Absolutely.
Well,
so
Cynthium asked, can we get Pickles his own cam? So we'll
there
have
you go.
Pickles cam for a minute here.
Well, that's okay. It can absolutely stay on Pickles for the rest of the show, and we'll be okay with that. So let's start going over some of the new stuff. You know, one of the things that was mentioned on the PrimeCast, and I'm just going to kind of tick these off as I took notes while listening to the PrimeCast, was the rebalancing of every model. And I think that that really the commitment that Matt Wilson made around every one of the models has been touched in some way, shape, or form. I think heralds one of the things, Bubba, that you touched on, which is list diversity is going to come back. And one of the ways that's going to come back is that I think theme lists are going to get straight up blown up as we move into Mark III.
I hope so. Honestly, like the tier lists are in general. There are some that are kind of in the middle there, but in general, tier lists are either egregiously broken, Doom Reaver spam, Raven tier,
Yep.
Fist of Halak, or Doomy Freeze tier, or they're so bad and unplayable, not because of the benefits they grant, just because the models are just like so bad. When your tier is like, take 2 units of Cossite Woodsman and 2 units of Greylord Turnian, you're just like, no, I don't want to do it.
Are you perhaps possibly talking about the old witch's bucket of shit tier or whatever that thing was called?
The Invisible Army.
The Invisible Army. You know why it's invisible? Because you never see the fucker.
Because nobody owns this mod.
Well,
yeah, like I think even if like whether tier lists go away completely or are redone in a sense, I'm fine with either. They just need to tread carefully if they do.
Absolutely.
I have a feeling they're not going to totally go away because all these people have extra models that they need to be able to fit in the game somehow. And PP is very careful not to make the same mistakes that a Games Workshop did.
It's pretty deeply rooted in the game too. They've been around for such a long time.
Yeah, and they're almost there. Go ahead, Rich.
I was going to say I'm going to agree with Bubba on this one. I don't think you're going to see theme lists completely disappear. You may see a slight modification, like because of the point doubling, you're going to see, instead of saving 1 point, save 2 points, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think a lot of it is still going to be there because they know full well someone that just bought 5 units of Doom Reavers. I wonder who that would be. Doesn't want to waste their money and their time and all that. So I think you'll still be able to use them. What were you going to say, John?
Well, I was going to say that most of the theme lists are almost there. Even if you take away the top and the bottom, the extremes, the rest with a little tweaking start to go towards that middle ground of playable and pretty much fair.
Yeah. Yep.
Sure, nice and fluffy.
So
like small little benefits that are cool but not broken.
Right.
Exactly.
And I think that gets to something that was mentioned on the PrimeCast that I think we've mentioned it briefly here, but in case you hadn't listened to the podcast, and guys, I do have to I hate to recommend listening to the PrimeCast, but in this case, listen to the PrimeCast. Basically one of the things they mentioned they were going to do is they've kind of doubled up the scale of the game. So think about the different points as they're awarded to each of the different units and models and things like that, and you're going to see the point values double and a enormous increase in jack points. Right now, if you see 7 jack points, that's a lot. They're talking they will be more like 28 to 30, which is more than double. I mean, that's more than 14 would be doubling up. They're doubling that up even again. So they're really doing some dramatic stuff with the points for jacks.
So what I've actually heard, John, not to put you off there.
It's okay.
I've heard that warcasters and warlocks will have that many jack points.
Okay.
28 to 30.
Right. So
and jacks will increase to get to that point, and that the battle boxes that they're coming out with, the total combined cost of the jacks will be in that 28 to 30 range.
Okay.
So just to go into that very quickly, the Khador one's the easiest to do. It's got 2 jacks. If the new Khador caster, Kozlov, has 28 jack points.
Yeah.
You have a Juggernaut and a Decimator, something along the lines of 16 points for a Decimator and 12 points for a Juggernaut.
There you go.
Something you can see. Or you could do 15-13. It gets a little more complex when you get into the 3 jack battle boxes, but you can still kind of follow those lines, and everyone can kind of piece it together within a point or two of what they're going to be, I think. Agreed.
Now, the other thing that they mentioned is that they are going to re-level the points on huge base models. So taking that into account, if you look at they said that a Juggernaut would be sort of a base, and the Conquest would be 4 times what a Juggernaut costs, but would be 4 times more effective. So if we take a Juggernaut at 12 points, that means that it is going to be 48 points for a Khador Conquest. So
Yeah.
you can figure that into how that's going to work. And they're saying that the average games in the future will be in the 100 to 150 point range. So
Yeah, and at 100 points, that seems kind of crazy, right? To take a 48 point, that's like that'd be like if it was worth 25 points right now.
well,
And
wouldn't you?
you'd be called ludicrous to take that.
Well, it would
And
be.
I think that's where they have to increase the value to make it worth it, which it sounds like they will.
I'm super interested to see how. Like 4 times more effective than a single Juggernaut.
Yeah, they're gonna have to be ratcheted up, because if they suck up all of your jack points and then another 20% of your list, it's a thing.
Yeah.
So that's what we got there. We talked a little bit about that. The other thing that they've committed to doing, and it was in the video as well as the discussion on the PrimeCast, was some of the new things that they're going to give to Jax and Beast to help level the playing field between the focus and fury mechanic. And the two things I want to talk about at this point is the power up ability for Jax and the spirit bond ability for the beasts. Rich, you've listened to the PrimeCast. Tell us a little bit about that power up and that spirit bond, and what you think how that could affect the game.
I will say this: it's immediately going to make me want to run more Jax and Retribution right off the bat.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, what's going to happen is you have a number of Jax in your battle group, and as long as they are in your caster's control area when you start your turn, they all get a focus for free. That makes a lot of it more viable. That could instantly cause an issue with Vyros 2's theme, but we'll see about that. It makes a lot of it more viable, and hey, more incentive, bring more stompy robots. Now, on the Horde side, I don't think this is fully understood yet. I may be wrong, but you can still get at least one Fury at the start of your activation if from a dead War Beast. But I don't know if they said at least one equal to how many it made, how many you need. I'm not quite sure on that.
Yeah, it was a little vague.
It was a little vague.
It was a little vague. But immediately, like right off the bat, assuming Cephalix will continue having the characteristics of Warjax, I will probably buy another 2 or 3 boxes of monstrosities like immediately if that's the case.
Sure. John, your thoughts?
It seems pretty cool. The War Beast thing, the impression I got from the couple different sources I read sounded like you'd get one for each one, so that way killing the War Beast doesn't just stop you from getting Fury ever. But we'll see how that plays out. It definitely makes Jax more interesting. I was already kind of playing Jack heavy. It makes it much more worth it.
Yep. Bubba?
I was the thing that got me really excited is I was like, I'm gonna play Karchev.
Yes.
A bajillion Mad Dogs, and they just all get a focus, and everything is control area, attack and damage, and they just all like charge in and just like wreck everything. It's gonna be hilarious.
Yeah, I mean,
I think it's good though. I don't know if it's the be all end all on the War Machine side. I don't know if one is good enough. It certainly helps any Jack with a gun.
Sure.
That just wants to shoot one thing, whatever that may be. Just kind of the single shot sluggers, long range, a destroyer in Khador or something. Nothing with multi shots. But that's really strong. On the Horde side, aren't they already good enough? Like, oh, now you get Fury back from your dead War Beast. So, I don't know. Like, the disparity's all already big, and like you're trying to fix it with power up, and that's cool. But then you give Horde something else as well. So, make up your minds. Damn it.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, I think what they're trying to do is in the words of Jason Souls, they were trying to basically keep that advantage that War Machine has towards the end of the game and the disadvantage that Hordes has towards the end of the game, and vice versa, try to equalize that out to a certain extent. So I think that's what they were trying to address, and in some ways they did. I don't know that. I'm a little dubious as to whether or not one free focus is still enough. As people who are members of the Painting with Menoth John Facebook page know, I'm releasing some spoilers, and I had announced already that the first spoiler was that you would be able to force jacks much like War Beasts, and that it would have a cooldown cycle or something like that. It may turn out, though, that that's not the case, that I'm just it's a ruse, if you would. And so that may not happen. But, the power-up and the Spirit Bond, we're going to have to see how that works out in practice. But that's certainly an aspect of the new game to come. One other thing they said they wanted to do was each of the caster is going to be special in that they will each have a spell that they and only they have, or some type of an ability that they and only they have. They mentioned that. We already talked about the 28 to 30 Warjack and War Beast points, and Bubby, you mentioned that the battle box equals 0, and you walked us through that calculation.
I think I looked at it. I was actually talking to Bubba about this very issue earlier today, and I figured out real quick. Of course, I'm listening to the PrimeCast as I'm driving, which is not a smart idea. I looked at the ret box. Unfortunately, the retribution box contents, with the exception of the caster, are exactly the same. I was hoping for a little bit of variation on that because I have everything and multiples of everything. But that by itself with no Warjack points is 18 points right now.
Mm-hmm.
So that doubled is 36, which means that Miss Shail 2016, I forget her real name, is going to get about 36 real points, or 36 jack points right off the bat.
Yeah, or they've kajiggered the points on those models a little bit to make them cheaper.
Which they probably did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I think they will all fall in that range, So if it's 36 and she's a 30, 2 points each kind of deal.
I can see that, yeah.
Yep. So let's address probably the item that Rich might have caused most War Machine Hordes players to drive off the highway if they were listening to this while driving. Pre-measuring is now a fully accepted part of the War Machine Hordes game. Bubba Dalton, as a competitive player, go.
So, initially, I saw pre-measuring, and to me, at the competitive level, I didn't like it. One of my strongest abilities is eyeballing and seeing those distances and taking advantage of that. So it's something I've lost, and I can overcome that. I'll figure out something else to be good at. I don't know. And then after about 10 minutes of being like, this fucking sucks. Why are they doing this? I was like, who cares? Like, it puts everyone can do it. I can do it. Rich can do it. John can do it. John can do it. Bob can do it. Like, it doesn't matter. And if everyone can do it, then there's no effect.
Yep.
In general terms, there's a slight effect up and down, but are people going to whine and bitch about it? Sure. In the long run, is it going to ruin the game? Absolutely not. Lots of games have pre-measuring now. In fact, I'm sure most do. That Guild Ball game that everyone loves has it. I don't know if we're supposed to talk about that on here. So.
Oh, no, we're all Guild Ball all the time. We're part of the Steam Forged
sweet.
Media Network, so it's all good.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
All right, so sweet. So Guild Ball has it. Everyone loves Guild Ball. So I think I think after the initial shock, I guess would be the word, people are just gonna get over it. And if it really bothers them that much, then they can fuck off anyway. If they want to be like that.
Now that's the fucking opinions people who watch Painting with Menoth John have come to hear. If they don't like it, they can fuck off.
I want to hear John Spencer's opinion on
Amen,
this,
me
'cause he's
too.
usually pretty grounded in reality.
Yeah.
Well, pre-measuring is one of those things that I don't have as fair opinion because Mr. Crazy Eyes is not good at pre-measuring. I have horrible depth perception. I am the ultimate, measure control area, get a good look, and then just roll those dice and see if I make it. So it helps me. It's helped me in every game that's done it. Malifaux went to it. Infinity went to it. Didn't break either of those games, and honestly didn't slow down either one of those games. Actually, it'll probably speed things up because now you're not doing all this test. You're like, oh, does this work? That's really close. You're not hemming and hawing. You're like, nope, out of range, not going to do it.
Yeah.
So
That's actually something I heard. That's actually something I heard is it'll speed up the game, and people are like, well, maybe they'll lower the death clock and speed up tournaments a bit.
Could be, maybe a little bit. I mean, even 10 minutes off a
That
clock
was
is
5-10
huge.
minutes.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with that at all. I mean, what am I going to do with a unit of highwaymen? Am I going to make 20 pre-measurements? No.
Yeah.
I'm
Get a
going to
measure
know.
one and go, yep, good enough.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I'm
Yeah.
out of range on that one. You want me to check it? Okay, sure. Oh, look, I'm out. Whatever. Keep going.
And good players could do it anyways. How many times
Yeah.
do we move one guy up and like, all right, there's my shot. Oh, look, out of range. So these guys are going to shoot over here. The thing I know is in range. We do it all the time.
Yeah, one of the things that I've talked to when I've been talking to people about Guild Ball, funny we should bring that up, is that one of the things that happens a lot is that they'll it's like, okay, I'm going to measure this, and I'm measuring it to do this, that, and this other thing. Are we good with this? Boom. It ends arguments immediately.
Yes.
And
Absolutely.
and as a result of that, it could speed up the game. It could speed up tournaments like you guys are talking about. And I think one of the things that is a problem for this game is that if you go to a 4-round tournament, you are literally in for an all-day affair. And the game can get long. And, maybe some of these changes are geared towards that to a certain extent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, super sweet. By the way, I'm not sure what your cat was doing there, Rich, but it was sitting on its hind legs and pawing at the sky. So perhaps
he does that every now and then, and I don't know why. It's at random times. Sometimes he's facing me when he does it. Sometimes he's not.
Was he perhaps facing towards Wisconsin and in fact doing homage to me, or possibly going towards Bubba?
He could be facing because he knows Snacky Cat is there.
Indeed.
He's trying to communicate.
Trying to make a breakthrough to the Snacky Cat. I'll make sure we'll check that later. He's kind of retarded. So we'll find out. So there you go. And I mean that in the most clinical way possible. So the other elephant that's in the room is command checks. Terror, abomination. Who needs them? One of the things that they said in the PrimeCast that they were very clear about was they wanted to remove things that made playing your army not fun. And
yay, no Haley too.
And I'm working on it, John. As president of War Machine and Hordes, there might be certain models that don't make the cut. You know what I mean? Anyway, but basically, terror checks or command checks where you lose the activation of a set of models, as we know that check today, is gone. So
I cannot be happier about this.
This is a big deal. I mean,
this
because
is amazing.
It's a huge deal.
One dice roll should not, and it can very easily determine the outcome of a game.
Absolutely.
And that, I think that causes more rage in War Machine than any other incident. That time when you're like, oh, your random guy that has Abomination or Terror got there, Lord of the Feast.
Yep.
In circle. Teleports in. And you're like, okay, I'll just make the son of a bitch.
Mad Dogs of War. Mad Dogs of War players.
Mad Dogs of War is
you
obviously
no longer need to worry about painting your models all the same so that we can't question how many terror checks we just went through.
The answer is 11.
Exactly.
Here.
Here. Little sword to leash at you.
Yeah, I think that's another thing that's just, it's a positive thing. It's not going to ruin play experience for people. It's not going to ruin games on, again, like you said, John, a single dice roll.
Yep.
And you don't want that. Sure, a single dice roll can kill your caster, but that's a different story.
So let's actually explore this a little bit. And John, I know you've seen a lot of games over the years and have seen a lot of different systems. you look at a game like Bolt Action, where you have pinning checks and things like that, where units lose effectiveness. They don't completely freak out, but they become less effective. Do you suppose that we could be looking at that as a potential outcome of this?
It honestly doesn't seem like a bad idea. It's always been a better system to have a loss of effectiveness, but not a complete, loss of the entire unit, basically,
Sure.
with one check like that. Um,
Rich and Bubba, are you guys familiar with the Bolt Action rules around pinning checks?
I am
No.
vaguely. I did a demo at Gen Con 2 years ago, and I thought it was really cool.
Okay.
Actually.
And I'll just very briefly, is essentially what it does. And if you were to lay something like that down on top of War Machine and Hordes, maybe you would lose a mat and rat, or something like that. So it would cut back how effective your units are as far as getting and doing something great. So
I've had that discussion with locals. I didn't know it came from that game or that idea or anything, but I like it.
Yep. But the thing that I'm thinking that we may not see that is just because they talk about streamlining the rules and making them easier. That doesn't seem to be in accordance with that direction.
True.
I think that's even more complex than straight fleeing.
I think it is.
I agree.
So
It is.
we'll see. It's not War Machine and Hordes is not going to turn into Tiddlywinks. This is still going to be a complicated game, and it's still going to be one that has a learning curve. But it seems as though that one, while it would certainly at least maintain some level of effectiveness of a unit and still kind of simulate that morale check, I'm not sure that that's the direction they're heading in.
I agree.
So, let's see. I talked about that. We talked about huge base models being more representative. Basically, the quotes that they were saying, and this 4 times the points, 4 times the effectiveness thing, was something that they had mentioned on the PrimeCast. And I'm just right now the Colossals are so powerful on the playing table. I'm just not sure how they're going to make them that much more effective without turning this into Colossal Machine.
Maybe
I think
it's
I
that
know.
48 point cost.
That could be. I have a theory.
No, I have a
think
theory.
right
That's my other
now,
cat.
The the big bang for your buck you get with Colossals is that it takes a lot of concentrated firepower to take down, and the drawback is you can only give them 3 focus.
Okay.
I have a feeling, and this is just rampant speculation. This isn't from anyone or anything. I have a feeling they're going to let you give them more focus.
That's interesting. That's interesting.
Like they can all take 4.
Yep, 4, 5, maybe.
I mean,
That'd be nuts.
you still have the situation where you have it's still one model with a 2-inch reach, maybe, and if you drop 5 focus into it, maybe that's something that yes, it will do a great amount of work in that 2-inch span or wherever it ends up, but which it should, and maybe that's what they're after. When it plops down in front of something, that thing ought to die.
It's just got to be worth the points. It can't be super effective for the points, nor can it be not quite worth the points. They just got to find that middle ground and make it work.
Terrific, absolutely. Any other?
What else we got?
It might be a bit of an all your eggs in one basket problem though.
Yeah,
that could help balance it. Like if the point cost is so high.
Bubba, you and I were chatting quite a bit this afternoon, back and forth about what we were hearing and what we were kind of soaking in, and you had heard something about reach and the different melee zones that might be coming out. Was that something that was substantiated through some source, or was that rampant speculation?
Yeah, just random speculation. It's been something that's been thrown around for a while now about basically just warjacks and warbeasts in general having a standard melee that is larger than a warrior model. Say
like 1 inch
if
or
a
something.
warrior model stays,
Yeah.
if a warrior model stays a half inch and a jack goes to 1 inch, and then everything can still have reach at 2 inches. I think that would again help jacks. Obviously, it helps beasts, but another thing that just helps jacks.
And maybe reach jacks go to 3-inch. So maybe reach becomes a +2. Who knows?
Who knows?
That's possible. They could get rid of reach on some of the jacks that maybe don't look like they should have it, and give it to some that they probably should.
Absolutely. So long as the avatar keeps reach. There we go. And so there you go. And so that's what we know on that. That's rampant speculation, though. But as president of War Machine and Hordes, and seeing as this is the Painting with Menoth John show, rampant speculation is not only appreciated but rewarded. So that is 54 golden Menoth John reward points for you, Bubba, for bringing that up, even if it was completely invented out of whole cloth. It's on the internet now. That makes it valid. So
I'll sign it into law later.
yes, absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about Fluff. Some changes that are coming down the road is, so basically of the mechanics of the game. That's pretty much what we know so far. These are the rule changes that we know as far as it's going to affect how models are going to move across the table and kill each other.
Right.
They have said, though, that they are going to be releasing more podcasts as the date approaches. So look for the release schedule for the PrimeCast to get stepped up a little. And but there are going to be.
They said end of April we're having one.
Is that, I didn't hear that part. Is that what they said?
I think so. I could be crazy.
Cool. Well,
That sounds about right.
sounds right. So keep your if ever there was a time to subscribe to that podcast, this would be the time. And that'll keep you up to date. And of course, as news breaks, the Menoth John Network (MJN) will be in full effect, bringing you all the news that matters. The Fluff is migrating out of the rules books, and so they are going to be releasing novels. And Skull Island Expeditions, or whatever the hell it's called, is going to be how you are going to find out what happened to your favorite warlock or warcaster. Any thoughts on this?
I like the idea. That seems cool. That makes rulebooks smaller and concentrates on rules. So I'm okay with that. What do you think, John?
It's definitely interesting. Plus, I've heard they're going to remove the plot armor for all the named characters, so there can actually be some chance for death, which is good, because I'll be honest, after the first book or two, you just I don't care, you're not going to die, because you just don't die.
Yeah.
You can't tell interesting stories when every character you've heard of before is going to live. It's just not interesting anymore.
Absolutely. I see the Harbinger getting knocked up.
Maybe.
That's a
Oh, and
permanent
I gotta
change.
say, I watched your video of you playing the cooler, John,
Yeah.
the other day in Tactics.
Yep.
Harbinger has a pretty borderline inappropriate voice for that game.
That game is wrong on a lot of levels. And when you put Owen and I on the same cast, and it's like, who are we both going to play? Well, Harby. So we had hot Harby on Harby action going on. So they're going to be putting out in the novels, and as you said, John, they're removing the plot armor, which is a term I hadn't heard before, but is absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
It's a 1+ invulnerability roll for everybody in War Machine and Hordes. Not so much anymore. Which brings us to, who do you want to see die first? John?
Me?
Yeah. Who would you like to see get knocked off first?
Haley, not close.
Excellent. Rich?
I'm gonna go with Haley, past, present, and future.
Excellent. Bubba?
I will also go with Haley. Past, present, future, unborn, already dead, that came back to life and was killed again.
Okay, well, we've got 3 votes for Haley. Let's just make it unanimous. Haley, suck it. You're dead. And meanwhile, the chat room is chiming in a loud, rousing chorus of Haley. So
The whole Haley 3 fluff, you had a great character, great model, a great rules idea, but the story behind it was straight the worst. Like, oh my god!
How many shots of Kraken did you give that back story?
I don't remember. I had a bottle when I started and didn't when I woke up.
That was some Quantum Leap bullshit.
Oh. If I read that in the novel, I'd be like, I'm out. This book.
Yep.
So
Eject from the book.
So he is king wrote Die Biznatch in the chat room, and of course, since I've Since I have a background in German, I wrote it as Die Biznatch. What is that German I don't recognize? It's Die Biznatch. Anyway, so there you go. So permanent changes coming. We're killing off some people. We're going 2 years forward. I gotta believe Severius is finally fucking dead. Come on, time for the old men to die. Natural causes.
Severius dies of old age.
He's sweet. And then so here's where the evidence that I am truly the president of War Machine and Hordes for life. Release date, bitches, June 10th, my birthday.
Yes.
Boom, shakalaka.
I can't wait that long though.
You're gonna have to wait.
I need card spoilers like when I wake up tomorrow.
Hey,
I need to start making fucking lists.
Which brings up a good point.
The extra time John and I have known and haven't been able to, know
Share.
any other details other than that it was coming and all.
Yep. So that actually brings up a good point, Bubba. Speaking of list construction, it has been confirmed, I believe, through a thread on the PP forums that was commented on by Simon Berman, that we will be repurchasing the War Room.
I have the post right here.
Okay, why don't you read us what the post was, Rich?
Sure. Courtesy of Shaboomalafu, something like that.
We got the best names for our brush heads.
I know, right? He told me it was post 51. PPS Simon says, in answer to a few questions, the new battle group kits are PVC plastic, unassembled. This will not affect the IKRPG rules, which is good because I have a campaign going in that right now.
Mm-hmm.
Regarding War Room. War Room has undergone a tremendous amount of new development on the back end, as well as adding new features. This is a new edition of War Machine and Hordes with all new decks, and just as you'll need new faction decks for your army, you'll need new faction packs in War Room. In consideration of existing players who have used War Room in the past, there will be a discount for faction decks that you have previously purchased. As well, players who purchased a War Machine or Hordes Mark II deck after January 1st, 2016 will receive the new edition equivalents free of charge. And he says an FAQ thread will be coming soon as well. I'm not too much of a happy camper about that.
Okay, well, we're going to do a point-counterpoint on this one. So go ahead and go ahead, Jane, you ignorant slut. You didn't watch the old Saturday Night Live enough.
No.
Okay.
Sorry.
So back on, I need to explain that frickin' comment then. So because you're probably not the only one then. So Weekend Update used to be hosted by Jane Curtin and Dan Aykroyd, and it would start off as a point counterpoint and turn into a name calling fight, and half the time Dan Aykroyd referred to Jane Curtin as Jane, you ignorant slut, and then continue on with the rest of his point. So please.
I'm going to make sure I say that at work tomorrow. That's fantastic.
Don't do that. That's probably going to get you fired. So anyway, so tell me why you're browned off, kiddo.
This is why. And maybe it's a little trivial, I don't know. I paid the money. I was one of those people who spent, $60 and got every faction in War Room.
Yep, me too.
And I was told when I got it, you will get all the updates for life.
For life of what?
Yeah, they never really specified that.
They did not.
I thought that meant the life of the game. But is this the end of the game and then the game is starting again?
Yes.
I don't know. I'm a little off put about it. However, if the discount is so huge it doesn't matter, I don't care.
I'm not. I have no issue with this whatsoever. I bought into War Machine and got the full faction deck literally at the moment that War Room came out. That means for 4 years now? I've been playing with War Room and gotten every book with every model for free, and frankly, I haven't bought a book since. And I think that is a fine price to pay for what essentially will prevent me from ever having to buy another book again.
That's a fair counter argument, I think.
I look at it as a bit. I totally agree. I'm on John's side. I'm totally fine with it. The value I've gotten out of it in my time of playing is far more than $60. I look at it as, what if War Room didn't exist, and I had to buy all the cards?
Yep.
Like
more than $60.
Hell yeah, baby.
and then it's not like oh, they've all been updated. And Project Press isn't going to be like, well, here's 9 boxes of new cards.
Yep.
Like, here's 9 boxes. Go fuck yourself. Give us a bunch of money, please.
Yep. John, your
So-
thoughts?
Well, when I bought them all, I was pretty much under the impression that it was going to be just till the end of Mark II. I don't know where I had read it or all, but I had read that and fully knew that Mark III meant all new decks. The fact that they're giving us discounts, I think, is kind of a little above and beyond.
I'm honest. I'm right there with you, John. There's in my opinion, there's no reason that they need to do that. I think it's super sweet that they're going to heavily discount the cards for people who purchase that deck of cards. Now, I'm not sure who bought that deck of cards, but if you bought they'll certainly have record of who bought the full game, whatever they call it, the subscription or the lifetime subscription. It's great. I'm super excited about it. The other thing that the War Room app gives you that cards certainly don't give you is that availability right on day one, and it updates and magic shit happens, and then you can play what ifs and all that kind of stuff. So there you go.
John, you're trying to tell me that when War Room updates to Mark III, that it's not going to crash?
Oh, it's going to be a fucking
straight?
disaster, but we'll live through it.
I've
got-
my iPod doesn't even work right now. I updated it a couple days ago. Literally doesn't work right now.
I've got an iPad. It works pretty good. So, I mean, that's
go.
what it boils down to. But hopefully, this is one that they saw the thing coming. They've had time to work with. Tinkerhouse hasn't done dick on this thing. They were in that beta for a long time ago. So hopefully we'll see something that's fully realized. And I'm pretty much an optimistic fella.
It won't be ready in time.
All right. So software never is.
Well, PG Buoy is playtesting it,
Yeah.
and it won't be ready in time.
Okay. Well, shit. So we'll hope that it's ready pretty quick. Let's see here. So how are they going to get all this shit in our hands? Because we're going to lock and load, Rich.
Woo! You're damn right we are.
So
It's going to come out on Saturday evening, according to PrimeCast,
Mhm.
of Lock and Load,
my birthday.
which is interesting. And they also said they have a special system set up, and that is during the day, Friday and Saturday. You can just go to the booth and say what you want and pay for it, and they take down your name, and basically they get together your order, and then after they do the press conference and they show the video and whatever else, then you go over to the booth and you just give them your piece of paper and you pick up your stuff and you walk away.
Yep.
It makes a lot more sense because no one wants to stand in line for a con they flew halfway across the world to go see.
Because that line would literally be in Renton, because it would just stretch down the 405, and it would be the suck. And they were. I think it's a neat way to handle the fact that they knew that everybody who was at that con was going to want at least one of everything that touched their main faction. So they're going to, they know how many people are coming. They know how many they're going to need, and they'll have at least that many. So there you go. Oh, by the way, I just found out that Kate Upton is also June 10th as her birthday. That's good stuff. Kate Upton is not greater than MJ.
She is pretty damn nice, though.
She's pretty hot, though. Anyway, so that's how that's going to happen. Scrambler. So the other thing that they mentioned is for all of us who are going to the Lock and Load, those will be Mark II tournaments. They are going to be the Friday and Saturday are going to be the farewell party for Mark II, and then Sunday it's going to be Scramblers aplenty with the staff helping to teach how to play Mark III.
Yep, and I had signed up for Speed Machine on Sunday, and I'm probably going to pull the handles on that.
If this controversy
I'm really sad I'm not going.
If this controversy about Kate Upton's boobs and versus my boobs continues, it is going to be shirt off Monday here pretty quick. Anyway, no, it's not going to happen. So anyway, I just had to address Kate Upton's boobs on the podcast. So the Scramblers on Sunday are going to be excited. exciting, and that's going to be good news. But we also had some another spoiler let loose, and that is for the Hordes game. That not this lock and load, but 2017 new faction, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. I didn't even think that was coming.
Yeah, it's coming. They've been hinting at it a little bit, but now there you go.
What do we
Needed.
think?
And it'll. Well, I think a new faction. We know nothing.
You know nothing,
Right.
Jon Snow. So we don't know anything. Wild speculation time. I'm calling Zoo.
That was gonna be my choice too.
Anything?
Canadians.
Yes.
I'm gonna say Return of the Orgoth.
I'm actually going to change my vote to Riches, and here's why I'm going to change it to that. Comments that were made during the course of that podcast indicated they had taken, and this was Souls and Matt Wilson talking. Okay, so Souls, if you've ever seen any of his art, that man lives in a dark place. And he said that this was going to be weirder and darker than they've taken things in the past. That smells like Orgoth to me. But Orgoth as a Hordes faction. Do we
You
know?
know what? They gotta get the mechanic from somewhere. They're not gonna make a mechanic, a new mechanic for a single faction.
True.
They're gonna adopt something that already exists, I think, for simplicity, and I think Hordes would probably be just the easiest go-to for that.
Yeah.
But that seems really cool to me. I mean, if that's what it is, I'd be pretty happy.
Sure.
It'll be interesting to see how they pull it off, whether it's all large bases or what.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. But with the points change, they could do that. Just each model being a bit more effective. 100 points. There's a lot of design space there.
Absolutely. So I think John, we've had a few people here comment in the chat room. We had a very recent flippity bloop from longtime Brushhead Flight Medic. How do you calm all the folks that have gone through the rules changes with GW so many times that are now freaking out about it? And I guess my initial thought, and I'd like to hear what the rest of the group has to say, is that keep in mind when GW had done these things in the past, a lot of times entire models or units would just go out of existence. And I just don't. Armies would just go out of existence. I don't see that happening with Privateer.
No, not at all. The easiest way to calm them down is with a taser or a tranquilizer, or as Trollton Heston says, chloroform. But no, honestly, if they look at the older GW ones, weren't as bad. This is sort of the excitement I felt between 5th and 6th edition of Fantasy, which was amazing. The only thing when it was Chaos Dwarves, and very few people cared.
Mm-hmm.
Or between, say, 3rd and 4th edition of 40K, where literally nothing went away.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen. PP's generally smarter than that, and if it does happen, you can rest assured they'll do their best to make it apparent that had to happen.
Yep. So, folks, those of you who are watching, there is one cautionary tale here. And that cautionary tale was the Mark II playtest. The Mark II playtest, the models that came out in that playtest were crazy, some of them. They were simply lunacy from a broken standpoint. And I worry a little bit that we're not getting a beta test on this one, where there are some people in this community that are really super good at breaking shit wide open. And I'm a little worried as they recost and re-ability some of these models that we may see some really crazy stuff make it to market. So that is my only piece of slight negativity in all of this. And as a patron exclusive, I'm going to be releasing the playtest PDFs from Mark 1 to Mark 2 as patron exclusives. So if you would like to get your hands on those old documents from way back in the day and want to see a harbinger unlike anything you could possibly imagine and see some of these things, I will bring it on. And and get in there, and I will put those up on the Patreon starting probably tomorrow.
I don't
So
know. I can imagine some pretty crazy things for Harbinger. Just saying.
she had a spell list. I'm just gonna put it out there. So I will, if you want any of that, www.patreon.com/menothjohn. That will be patron exclusive. So,
Yep.
Any other thoughts?
I think you're right. I think you're right, John. I think it's almost guaranteed to happen. Whether it's a playtest open to the public or not, someone will break something.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yep. And Dowdark brings up a good thing. I mean, I think that DC was involved in some of this, but he's been out of the loop now for about 5-6 months. And it's hard to say where things have gone since then. But if they're releasing all this crap in June, you know that this stuff's off in the printers right now. And or at least key lines are circulating. So everything's been pretty locked in for quite some time, I would think, or at least close. So this may be the last gasp of DC's involvement in the game, is what we're about to experience, and I'm hopeful given that. So, any other final thoughts, guys? We've been kind of prattling on here for not quite an hour. It's probably an hour is about as a good length for a show like this.
Something we didn't really touch on on the release schedule portion is the Cock Colossus is the next one coming out.
Mm-hmm.
Coming out in July.
Yep.
$109.
It's not too bad.
$109.
So I'm actually, $109.
That's really cheap.
Oh, John,
American.
that's like $1 million in Canadian. You gotta
1.63 million.
Oh, okay. All right. Good.
But so I'm surprised it's the Cock one. Maybe it was just the first one ready. That's probably what it was. But then there's a couple resculpts in there. Balder, Behemoth is in there, so people are wondering if he's a resculpt.
I hope so. 'Cause they already did. They said resin and white metal.
Yeah.
And the current one is already resin and white metal. So
Yeah.
here's
So
hoping. Because
I'm really
Behemoth
hoping
is a
it's a
character
resculpt.
jack that should look amazeballs.
Yeah, and he looks like shit.
Yeah.
But more importantly, right at the end there's two things. First, in the Circle Battle Box, there's a Feral, a Gorax, and an Argus. And the Argus is listed as Wild Argus. So I don't know if that's new. I don't know if that's a new Argus or it's just being renamed because it's a War Argus. So maybe it's just being renamed. But that's something to look out for people.
I'm pretty sure that's just renamed to make it easier to do stuff with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could be.
I got two things real quick. Actually, one thing, Bubba, if you're all set. I don't know if you're.
Bubba,
I was just the last thing was also for Circle, is there's a new solo. I don't know if anyone caught it.
I did catch that.
The Circle Stone Shaper is a new solo coming out in July, I believe. So obviously he'll be rock themed. Probably goes with Balder and Bradigus and all that stuff. So
Full of rocky
something to look out
goodness.
for. It was on the release notes.
Yep. Because they did, they went ahead and they did the solicitations to all of the distributors at the same time that they dropped the announcement. So if you go over to Discount Games Incorporated's Facebook site, he's got the list of everything that's planned to come out in June and July, and that is a big effing list.
Huge.
So, well, there you go, guys. Any other final thoughts? We'll start up in the upper left-hand corner with Rich Brotman. Any final thoughts on tonight's news?
I don't want to end it on negativity, but no minions, new minions battle box, no Cock battle box, no Merc battle box.
Kind of hating that, actually.
It's disappointing. Those guys continue to get punished.
Only
Gotta
one of
show
those
love
is a
everywhere.
surprise.
Yeah.
I think only the Convergence is a surprise. I didn't expect minions or Merc battle boxes, to be honest.
That's too bad. I would. It'd be wonderful to see minions and mercs kind of get elevated up to the full faction status.
And if they
Yeah.
take Magnus away
isn't
from
this-
Mercs,
Yeah.
Isn't this all about pushing a bit of sales? Like, make the box.
Yeah.
Get people into them.
Yeah.
You know what? They'll
Yeah.
probably make the box after the fact.
Yeah.
Maybe.
At some point.
Hope so.
But like I said, I don't want to leave it on a bad note. if you're coming this weekend to the Southern Ontario Open, Bubba and I will see you there, and it will be an amazing weekend in at Hamilton, or is it Burlington?
Hamilton.
Hamilton, Ontario. We'll be recording Saturday night. Stop by if you're in the area.
Terrific.
It's gonna be amazing.
Oh yeah.
John, anything last from you?
Well, I got plenty of more thoughts, but I'm going to save them for my own podcast.
Oh,
Oh.
snap! You know, these
Shots
days
fired.
the co-host with the host has branched off and is now bringing you co-host corner, which is available if you are a patron of the Painting with Menoth John show. You know, we'll give you the big show on Sunday, but we're gonna slip you the tip every now and again, and that's what you get when you become a patron. And so we are looking forward to you doing that, John. And looks like you got some good meaty subjects to talk about on your show.
Absolutely. Make up for not really being worth it to do any dojoing.
There you go. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the dulcet tones of the Bob Ross theme music, of course, means that Pickles the Cat would like to wish us all a very good evening. And on behalf of Pickles the Cat, Rich Brotman, Bubba King of the North, Mr. John Spencer, my mighty right hand, and me, Menoth John, we will see you Sunday night on Painting with Menoth John. Good night, everybody.
Your fucking cat's ridiculous.